Grandpa Ron here again. Hope you're all having a great day and everybody's well and happy. Here we got a lot of smoke. I'm looking outside and we got a lot of smoke from forest fires around the area. But we're supposed to get rain tomorrow, so I'm hoping it wash some of this out. And we're just keeping the firefighters in our minds, hoping that everything goes well with them. Well, today we're going to continue with our basic Bible study, keeping in mind that it's very basic, and but we're just going to hit on high points. And I think this is number 11 in our series. And we're going to start with chapter 12 of Genesis. Now, up through chapter 11, the focus has been on huge, tremendous, dramatic events of Earth history. We had the creation of the world by God. We had the fall of man, rebelling against God, and getting so bad that God destroyed the world, changed everything forever. The climate, everything, the topography. So huge changes in the world. The only survivors were in the ark that Noah had been directed to build. He and his family, 8 people. They came out of the ark and began to spread out, but they stopped. Noah's descendants disobeyed God yet again. And rather than spreading out as God wanted and had directed them to do, they stopped and started to build a tower for themselves. They want to make a name for themselves. They wanted to create their own heaven, their own religion, and God had to confuse their language because the languages were confused and they couldn't understand one another. They spread out, and over hundreds of years we had pockets of inbreeding, which was the source of the racial divisions we have today. And then we come all the way up to where we're at now in chapter 12, and there's a shift. And this shift is going to be from these worldwide events. There's still going to be some events of worldwide impact, but the focus is now going to be on one man and his lineage, and rather than the narrative being really, really compressed, where you might have a chapter that covers 1,000 years, the narrative is still going to be a little compressed from time to time, but it's not nearly as compressed as before. So things are going to proceed a little bit slower. We're going to see documented history here of the development of different peoples, how they react to God, how God reacts to them, what God's plan is for men during this time, and for plans for future events. We're going to see some prophetic statements about things that are going to happen in the future. So here's a pretty big shift between chapters 1 through 11 and chapters 12 and forward. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to go back just a little bit to the last part of chapter 11, verse 27, where we see one of the genealogies reiterated that focuses on Abram's line. Where did he come from? Okay. Verse 27, now these are the records of the generations of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, and Nahor, and Haran. And Haran became the father of Lot. And Haran died in the presence of his father Terah in the land of his birth, in Ur of the Chaldeans. And Abram and Nahor took wives for themselves. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and Iscah. And Sarai was barren. She had no children. So this is going to be significant later on, the fact that Sarai, at this point in time, was barren and has no children. Verse 31, and Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went out together from Ur of the Chaldeans in order to enter the land of Canaan, and they went as far as Haran and settled there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Well, we also notice here in that verse that Terah's lifespan was much shorter than the people that came before him. So we see the average lifespan of people going down, being diminished. Okay, let's start in chapter 12. The call of Abram. Now the Lord said to Abram, we're going to stop just a second. We don't know, it doesn't say here, did the Lord physically speak to Abram? Did he appear to Abram? Did he appear in a dream? We don't know. But what we do know is that in some type of real way, God communicated with Abram in very clear and certain terms. Now the Lord said to Abram, go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you. He doesn't even identify what the land is. I'm going to show you the land. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great. And so you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Now remember, his wife Sarai is barren. She has no children. So when God makes this promise to Abram, he has no son, he has no daughter, he has no children. God is telling him to go somewhere he's not even sure of where it is. And he's telling him he's going to be a blessing to all the world. Abram's faith is demonstrated here in a few minutes because he actually obeys what God has told him. One indication, one commentator points out that Abram's relationship to God was so close. You know, we're not told anything about his relationship to God other than these introductory statements here. But one commentator says one indication that his relationship with God is so close that if someone curses him, it's actually as if they were cursing God himself. And God is going to retaliate. And that if God blesses him, it's as if they were blessing God himself. And God is going to return that blessing to all the peoples of the earth. And we know that ultimately that blessing is going to be Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. But we're talking about a huge time span before that happens. But this sets the stage for Abram and his descendants. Okay, let's go on to verse 4. So Abram went forth as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. Lot was his nephew. Now Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. That seems old, but keep in mind, we're going to learn as we go further on that Abram lived to be 175 years old. So this is, he's not even halfway through his lifespan here. So this is the prime of his life, really. Verse 5, And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his nephew, and all their possessions which they had accumulated, and the persons which they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. Thus they came to the land of Canaan. Now all their property, that would include cattle and people who work for him, all the stuff, pots and pans and everything they have. They just packed up everything and moved and wound up in the land of Canaan. So this was a huge step of faith on Abram's part. He's doing what God told him. That shows his close relationship to God. And he's stepping out on faith based on what God has told him. Verse 6, and Abram passed through the land as far as the site of Shechem to the oak of Moreh. Now the Canaanite was then in the land. Now the Canaanites historically were terrible, awful people. They were idol worshipers. They did some absolutely horrible things, child sacrifice, burning their own children, just really, really awful stuff. So this is the land that Abram winds up in. Verse 7, and the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your descendants I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. So in verse 1, the Lord spoke to him, and we don't know exactly how that occurred. But now in verse 7, the Lord actually appeared to him. Now there are verses in the Bible that says no man can see God and live, so this had to be an appearance maybe by the pre-incarnate Christ, or somehow God appeared to him and gave him this information. Verse 8. Then he proceeded from there to the mountain on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. So here's another altar to the Lord. Kind of a visual rebuke of the idol worshippers in the area. Verse 9, and Abram journeyed on, continuing toward the Negev. And verse 10, now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. And it came about when he came near to Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, see now, I know that you're a beautiful woman, and it will come about when the Egyptians see you that they will say, this is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will let you live. Even these pagan countries, many of them had a respect for marriage back then, and it seems odd to us that it would be okay to murder her wife to be able to take her, but to them that was morally okay. We'll kill him, then we can take his beautiful wife. Seems strange to us. Verse 13, please say that you are my sister, so that it may go well with me because of you, and that I may live on account of you. And it came about when Abram came into Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful, and Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. So apparently she did tell the story. It's my sister. And we're going to find out later, well, we've already found out that she really is his half-sister. But to say that she was his sister without explaining further is really a lie. So they've actually conspired to tell a half-truth. Verse 16, therefore he treated Abram well for her sake, and gave him sheep and oxen and donkeys and male and female servants and female donkeys and camels. So again, it seems odd to us that because he was her brother, he would be lavished with his stuff, but if they had known that they were married, he would probably have been killed. Verse 17, but the Lord struck Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. Then Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? We don't know how he found out. Maybe Sarai told him, but somehow Pharaoh found out, and he's enraged. Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. I mean, just get out of here. And we ask ourselves, well, why didn't he kill him then? You know, perhaps he was concerned about more difficulties. We don't know. But for some reason, he throws them out. He don't want to see him again. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they escorted him away with his wife and all that belonged to him. Now, if we go back to verse 10, where it says there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt. Some commentators say this was sinful on the part of Abram because he didn't apparently confer with God, with the Lord. He just did this on his own, and it created a lot of problems. In the future, we're going to see other problems magnified. But it's an example of how Abram is not a perfect man, and God didn't pick him because he was perfect or sinless, but because he had faith in the Lord. He believed what the Lord said, and so the Lord is blessing him. He's picked him out, and his descendants are supposed to be God's representatives in the sense that they are supposed to reflect God and his greatness and his glory and his mercy. But yeah, Abram is not perfect, not sinless. We see that here. He's made the decision to go to Egypt on his own. He's done a half lie with his wife. But now he's back out of Egypt. And we're going to see in the next chapter where he goes and what happens to all his possessions, and start to see a chain of events in Abram's life that actually draws him even closer to God. Anyway, we'll pick up here in chapter 13 next time. God bless. Have a great day. Bye-bye.